Abraham was asked to sacrifice his son. And for a lot of people, I think that could come across as kind of cruel. Why would God ask Abraham to sacrifice his son? And then imagine right before that, his mistress, I guess you say Hagar, and his child. His wife had told him to send them out to the wilderness, and he obliged. And he sent them out into the wilderness with just a cup of water or whatever, a bag of water and some food, and pretty much said, "Okay, make it out on your own." I think in this chapter, these two chapters that we read, I think people could come across as seeing it as kind of cruel. Why would God make them do this? Why would God force a man to sacrifice his son? Why would God allow this dude to send out a woman and his child into the wilderness, essentially to just kind of figure it out, and if they die, so be it. So I want to just go ahead and start there and get your thoughts and revelations. And I just wonder if y'all noticed anything during the live that maybe took y'all aback while reading that.
Yeah, just kind of going over these two chapters that we read over in the book of Genesis. Without context, you're able to look at it and just question all of it. And some people even like to use these two stories against Christians. But reading the whole thing, it made me understand that God may push you to go through some very difficult paths that you may not even want to go down. But at the end of the day, God will never lead you to destruction. And I think that's the whole premise behind these two stories. For example, with Hagar, she was sent out with her son out into the wilderness with just a pack of water and some bread. In those times, in wilderness, woman and a kid, even in today's times, it's very difficult for them to survive. But in that moment of doubt, God came and showed mercy upon the two. God came and showed his true intentions behind it all. And he ended up providing still. And similar to Abraham, right before he was about to sacrifice his son, God sent an angel to stop him and reveal to him a ram to replace his son. So I think God sometimes sends us down these paths to test us, to see if our faith is true. And once we show it is true, he blesses us and he shows mercy upon us.
Just for context, during the live, we actually got a comment from someone who was looking to stir up something, and
Really?
yeah,
I
and
missed it.
yeah, there was a comment from someone that was looking to stir up something, and it's like, okay, oh, an all-knowing God that needs to test his own people. Oh, like
Something along those lines.
something along
yeah.
those lines. Like, okay, wow,
Mhm.
like that makes no sense. Essentially, like
Yeah.
why would an all-knowing God need to test
He
his
should already know
subjects?
that he was
He
going to
should
pass
already
the test.
know.
Yeah. That's
How
type of
rich is
argument.
that? How rich is that an all-knowing God needs to test his own sons?
Well, I'd counter it with, what if it's not for God? What if it's for us? It's for us to help us grow. That's how I would counter that. And that's just the truth of it all. When you actually learn about God, you realize that he's for us. He wants us to reach our best potential.
Okay, because I didn't know if y'all noticed it or not, but that
Didn't.
that was during the last
Which platform was it on?
in Genesis. Whenever we were reading that, whenever we were talking about
Really?
testing,
No, was it like on Twitch or YouTube?
it was on
or-
YouTube.
On YouTube. I think I
Really?
missed it then. Oh, that's a
We actually had other comments that were like, one of them said like really receiving this message. I hear it. Amen. So there was positive comments, but
Oh,
the
wow.
first comment was that one.
Wow,
And-
that's cool that we're actually getting comments.
yeah. If all comments are good comments, and it was right off the bat. I appreciate some type of counter argument or whatever they believe, because that's only going to help us learn and grow right off the bat. If you would ask me that, and I wouldn't know the answer, but as we talk about it and we grow and we learn, now I'm gonna know the answer. So if someone would ask me about that in the future, okay, well here's what I would say, and if that's not good enough for you, then I'm sorry. Maybe this mustard seed will grow eventually. So I agree with what Raju said about maybe it wasn't for Jesus, maybe it was for us, maybe it was testing ourselves. Maybe it's like, hey, do we really even want to go down this path? Do we really even want to be saved? Do we really want to get to know Jesus? Or am I still okay being comfortable and complacent and do my own, leaning on my own understanding. And I'm okay with that. Because if I'm okay with that, then Jesus is gonna be okay with that. Will it hurt him? Yeah, but he's gonna say no. Like, let me test you. Maybe this is the direction you're meant to come. And then that's something we've all been through. And as far as the test of faith, and that's inevitable. I was thinking of a few examples, like for Squid Games in season 1, he's all smiling and he's all happy, and then next season he's just like dead face, stoic. That smile is gone, right? Or even when you start a new Call of Duty game, you're level 1, you got the classes that are already pre-built given to you, and then next thing you know, you're Master Prestige with diamond camo, right? But to get there, you had to go through those tests of faith, through those trials and tribulations, through those hardships that other people will look at and be like, nah, an all loving God, that your God wouldn't do that. But maybe that's why we're becoming more stronger, more, you know, sword and shield, better equipped to face the real world, because our God is actually testing us, making us ready for the cold world, making us ready for the evil. So when we do get things like that, we're not scared and gonna lay down and die. But like, oh, my God, I was expecting you. My God showed me you before. He told me about you. This, I'm not gonna sweat it. Compared to like, oh, if God was like, no, be comfortable, don't step out of your comfort zone. I'm gonna handle everything. Don't meet me halfway. I'm gonna give you everything you want. And as soon as something goes south or someone questioned us, we're just gonna lay down and crash and burn and not know anything. Whereas I can kind of see is like, yeah, like how our fathers did to us. Our fathers are gonna be able to be like, yeah, I can pass peacefully knowing my son is gonna be war. He's gonna be alright. He don't need me no more. And that's one of your goals that you wanted to do. I've heard you mention that when you got your family and you're on the ranch riding on your horse away with the cigar. You say that your time will be. You'll know your time is here when you know your family is gonna be okay without you. And I feel like that's what Jesus is trying to have us do.
We see this often in the gospel, but like I said, these trials and tribulations that we go through, it's never against us. And I was kind of rereading what does Sabbath mean? It's
Sabbath is
the day of
the
rest.
day, yeah, the holy day. That's like where, remember, whenever God had the creation, the story of creation, on the seventh day he rested,
Mhm.
and so that's what the Sabbath is.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to use that example, but he's talking about Sabbath. But I know we read along in Matthew where it's talking about Jesus, and Jesus came to serve us. That makes me think of how God is with us. God, like I said, he's never going to lead you down a path to punish you. It's always going to be for you to help you grow your faith and become a better individual.
Of course, there are detractors out there that are looking at the Old Testament and saying how God is cruel. How is God all loving? Why would he even subjugate his followers to go through these things? But I think it's a good point that y'all both brought up, is that the world is tough in general, and God is preparing us for that. He's preparing us for those tough moments, that if we can have faith in him whenever he challenges us, and we know that it's for our benefit, whenever the world comes against us, then we'll know, you know what, no matter what comes against us, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, because God will provide. And I mentioned that in the live, that was my favorite part. That's the part that stood out to me the most, is God will provide. And that really called out to my heart, because I think it's very easy to whenever, as you mentioned, those harsh moments come down, we can lay down and die. Or are we going to have our faith and say, you know what, no, God will provide? And remembering who we are as sons of God. But of course, now we go into the book of Mark. We start the book of Mark for the first time, and we see Jesus getting baptized by John the Baptist, and then going into the wilderness and getting tempted by Satan. And I think another detractor might look at that and say, well, how is Jesus getting tempted by Satan? Like, isn't he God? Does it, like, why would Jesus even, how would he be tempted? That makes no sense. So what would y'all say to the detractors that would come out and say, why would Jesus need to be tested? Why would Jesus be by Satan? You know?
Yeah, and we actually touched base on this in the live. Jesus is God in human form. He came down to it, and then we raised the question of how, or we started a question. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he got up and went straight out into the wilderness. In a way, it was a demonstration to kind of show and prove not only to everyone but to himself as well, that even these temptations are there, he can always combat them and you can still overcome them. And I think all of us can take actual inspiration from that, that even when Satan, the devil, tempts us with certain things, whatever it may be, with God, we can always overcome them.
Also, too, we can see it as he's using it as a way to get rid of any last bits of doubt. If you're about to follow Jesus and you're on the fence about it, this could be the answer that he gives you. They're like, okay, I'm fully on this side. It's like, look, I don't even get tempted by Satan. You can trust me. Because it would be easy to say, like, oh, why am I going to follow someone who gets tempted by Satan himself? That's no good for me. But if you see it as someone who's on the fence and wanting to be a follower or a disciple, and you see that the person that you want to follow is like, hey, not even Satan himself can tempt me. I'm doing this so that y'all can see that he's trying to, but I'm not going to give in. So that can reassure and put your mind at rest that yes, I'm the truth, I'm the way, I'm the light. I'm not doing this, to prove anything, out of the ordinary. And it's like, no, like I'm not gonna be tempted by Satan. You're in good hands. Take my hand.
Mind you that in this reading that we had, there was a presence of many demons, right? And I think a lot of people could overlook that and say, "Well, demons, back in the day," but demons are very real. Satan is real, and I think that's something that we tend to look over. That whenever we start succeeding, right, it's not only as believers in Christ is God able to look at us and want a relationship with us, but so does Satan. And so when you think about what Satan's ultimate mission is to corrupt God's creation, then you got to be on your guard, because as you continue to grow closer to God, that's just making Satan want you that much more. That makes Satan want to come after you. Let's tempt you. Let's throw these things at you. Let's try to take you off course, because he knows that as children, as God's children, he loves us and we're precious to him. So if he can corrupt that, if he can take you away from him, well then he's just hurting God. And so as you continue to grow, as you continue to succeed, you have to be prepared for Satan to come and tempt you. And it can be in many different ways, right? It could be an opportunity that arises that on the surface level it seems like a good thing, but what are they asking you to do? What are they asking you to promote? What are they asking you to proclaim in exchange for that? So there's a price for everything. And so I think it's also a reminder that Satan tempted Jesus. You think he won't tempt us? And Jesus, being God himself, of course, was able to overcome it and brush it and Satan get behind me, right? But us, when we go into the wilderness, are we going to be able to ignore the temptations? 40 days, no water, no food, just barely getting baptized. So imagine us in that situation, just coming to Christ, just getting baptized. Now we're fasting in the wilderness. And the wilderness could be metaphorical in that sense for us, right? Could be going out into the world around the people that we've been associated with, that they go to the drink, they go party every weekend. There's the girls that are in our DMs that are trying to, seduce us. Even maybe it's even family members that we used to smoke with, we used to drink with, we used to do all these things with, right? So now we're in the wilderness, and there Satan is. He's tempting us, trying to take us away from God. And so I think we can look at that and say, no, we got to be ready, on guard, because even Jesus Christ himself, Satan tried to tempt him. But him being God, he knew. But could you say the same for yourself? If Satan tempted you with everything that you wanted, would you say no to it? Or are you able to deny it and say, you know what, I'm going through this troubled time right now. I'm mind you, he's hungry, he's thirsty, his bodily flesh is yearning for something, right? Is yearning to live, but he's denying that. He's fasting because he's given that part to God. He's letting God is going to be his water, God's going to be his bread. Could we do the same? It's a good question.
Another part of the Gospel of Mark that we actually touched base on and we reread was when Jesus Christ was sitting down with sinners and tax collectors and he was eating with them. And some of the Pharisees came up and started questioning Jesus, asking him, "Hey, why are you sitting with them? Why are you sitting with those sinners? Why are you sitting with those tax collectors?" And Jesus replied to him with an analogy, saying, "Physicians aren't for the healthy; they're for the sick." And I think that was very powerful. And I know Jeremy touched base a little bit on it. We shouldn't wait for the perfect timing on to go to Jesus, to go to God. Go right now. Go right now when you're sick. Go right now when you're a sinner or a collector, whatever it may be. And I think that was a very powerful moment in this chapter.
No, I think you're right. And I guess one question that I have for y'all is like, okay, so on the one hand, we want to get away from those people that are tempting us. But on the other hand, Jesus is saying, no, those are the people that you need to be around. How do you combat that? How do you deal with being in the wicked world but also trying to be out of the wicked world?
I think it really just depends on where your heart lays, you know? If you have a corrupt heart, for example, when I think of it, I think of the Pharisees, how they thought they were perfect. They thought they were above the law, above everything, right? Above these people. Jesus would contradict that by going and collecting these people to become his disciples, to go sit down with him and eat with him. And I combat that with, like I said, it all just depends where those people's hearts are. Because even if they may be sinners, you can truly tell when someone has a genuine good heart and they want to do better. They want to grow and they want to be healed, and the sick are in need of a physician, not the healthy.
And I think in a way, now that I think about it, maybe that person that was commenting trying to detract, maybe that was a cry for help.
Maybe.
You know? And so I think maybe in that way we can try to be a little bit better about approaching those ways, is because mind you, the title and the thumbnail for our video for the live was, what if God is testing you right now? Right? And that person saw the thumbnail that said, can you trust God? And he chose to click on our video. He chose to click on the live. And not only that, but he referenced what we were talking about, so he was listening, and he decided to type that comment. And I think, wow, like, in a way, God did call to him, and he did click on our video. Maybe he was feeling some sort of conviction. You know, whether or not he manifested that in a hateful way, he still, we planted that mustard seed and maybe in a little way, right? So I think in that sense, he's one of those sinners. He's the tax collectors. He's the ones that are sick, that Jesus is calling us to sit with, to dine with, so that they could see a representation of Jesus through us. And so I don't know. That's just kind of a revelation that I just had right now. But who I'm pretty sure that you have people. I'm pretty sure y'all have people in y'all's lives that y'all choose to ignore, that Jesus is calling us to sit down and have a conversation with. You know?
I think it also has to do more with the experience and how much of those tests of faith you've endured. How battle hardened are you? Like for me, I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit. I'm very well rounded, and I can make friends with a lot of people easily. Like I can switch. I'm a shapeshifter in a way. Like I can match vibes. You know, if someone says something that they're interested in, I can immediately pull from the files and be like, oh, what do I know about that topic? You know, like for example, this person likes the World Cup. What do I know about the World Cup? Let me see. Or this person likes, boxing. What do I know about boxing? This person likes chess. What do I know about chess? With this person like this, I don't know anything about it, but let me learn or let me ask them questions to get them engaged. And the way I see it is, if that's a skill I'm grateful to have, because it allows me to be more like Jesus. It allows me to be more open minded. It allows me to be, out of that comfort zone and get away from my clique and my friends that are in the same major, the same, they like everything like me. That's why they're my best friends. They want to do everything like me. But I need to step out of my comfort zone. I need to get with those tax collectors and sinners. Maybe I'll be the first person. I mentioned this in the live pod too, that maybe I'll be the first person that they see as a representation of Jesus, or, of the States, or of Texas, or of Lubbock, and it just kind of puts that in the back of my mind, like, hey, these are going to be the first impressions are everything. And the more you are like Jesus, the more you're welcoming, the more you're going to, but that can be a slippery slope at the same time, because you don't want to share your energy with just anybody. But sharing your energy and letting them into your personal life is different than, hey, how are you today? Let me pray for you. Like, let me, let's go have a meal. Or we don't have to get personal, but let me show you what Jesus is like. And that's something that I took away from the tax collectors and from the sinners is like, hey, like question it. You know, people are gonna say, "What are you doing?" It's okay. Jesus did it. You know, because the growth I see is that person that made that comment. You know, back then we'd be like, "Oh, you don't know what he's talking about. You're whatever. He's just trolling you." Could have easily went off on him, and I would have just gave him the ammo to be like, "Oh yeah, these guys are Christians. Look at these guys," you know. And but then we're like, "Oh, thank you for the question. We'll answer that as best we can. You know, we don't know what your intentions are, but you know, we'll try to do our best to answer it." Just from that little snippet right there,
Yeah.
people will be like, "Oh man, Jesus is the real deal. Let me learn a little bit more about this guy. Let me see what's going on."
Yeah, and I think pride and ego have a lot to do with it because I was telling Raul earlier that we got another hateful comment on one of our videos, one of the shorts that we posted, and it was of Raul, and I think that pride and ego that caused to like put him in his place, right? But at the same time, Jesus is calling us to love everyone, to love that person, and maybe it's as simple as just putting "God bless you." Just ignore the statement because some statements aren't really worth engaging because you know that they're not in it in good faith. They're just spewing hate just to spew hate.
Wanting a reaction, maybe to
Exactly.
stir the pot.
And so for us, maybe it's just as simple as saying, "Oh, God bless you." You know what I mean? And then
I'll pray for you.
yeah, and move on from it. And so, but I think pride and ego has a lot to do with it. Whenever we get challenged, whenever people are clowning on what we're doing, whenever people are saying these blasphemous things, right? At the end of the day, those are the sick. They're the ones that are being damned to eternal damnation, right? So in a way, it's like, man, I feel pity for that person because clearly they're in need of help, and it might be a cry for help, as I mentioned. So I think us moving forward, being more mindful of that, of whenever we do receive hate, it's like these are the people that Jesus said that we need to reach. Like it's don't get me wrong, like I like seeing the people that are saying, man, I need to hear this message, like amen, and, like this is great. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm glad you're receiving this message, but it's the detractors. It's the ones that are saying that this is a BS religion, that God's not real. They're saying, oh, all knowing God needs to test his people. Oh yeah, that's great. You know what I mean? Like I think I think we need to be more willing to set aside our pride and engage with those as well, but in a loving manner.
I reemphasize the experience. How many tests of faith have you been to? Your first strikeout, your first failed test, your first breakup's gonna hurt a lot more than your, fifth strikeout, your, Roa's case, 11th breakup, whatever the case might be. Uh, or people who are trying to be distractors and tell you all these things and, oh, I've seen this comment before, oh, people have called me this name before, oh, they told me this before, oh, they talked about my family before. At first you react the negative way that Jesus wouldn't want, but as you become more experienced and have those sense of faith, you're like, oh, I was expecting you, I used to be like you, I'm going to be friends with you even though you go drink and smoke and do this and this, because I used to do that. And I came out of it. Maybe you seeing me come out of it will help you come out of it. I'm not gonna totally isolate from myself from the people. Of course, there's those extreme cases where, like, I can't even be around you because I'm gonna get in trouble. But if they're just like, maybe they have the bad habit of going out every weekend, but you don't. But they're responsible. They get an Uber, right? But they just, to get too drunk and they blow their money on the weekends. But they're a good person at the end of the day. I'm not gonna be like, nah, I can associate with you. I don't go out and drink every weekend, so I can't get with you. And be like, no, maybe I might even go with you. I won't drink. I'll have a cup of water, but maybe this might be a step to help you get out of this slump and be like, hey, I'm showing you don't need alcohol to have fun. You don't even need to be out here. We could go do something else. The experience part is the biggest part, not only for this, but for anything, in my opinion, because it helps you get the skills and the tools to handle similar situations that you've endured previously. A few years ago, when I was working at my old job, and I had this friend, and I kind of mentioned it before. He was kind of asking me all these questions. Well, why does Jesus do this, and why does God do this? And he gave me the big ultimatum. He's like, if you can answer this question, I'll believe God. And I was like, oh man, and I couldn't answer it. And then in that moment, I felt like a failure, and I was like, I don't know anything. But from now, fast forward to now, I would definitely put a lot of a better answer together. And who knows, maybe it would have changed his perspective too. But it's just at the moment I didn't have enough experience.
Yeah, and I think it's just again, as kind of as you're alluding to, just being in the Word, knowing, reading, so that we can get that context, so that whenever people do challenge our faith, when people do come with questions, genuine questions, we're able to provide the answers, or at least put them in the right direction. I think that's something that we're going to encounter more of. I think that's something that we need to be prepared for as we continue to grow, as we continue to get more people watching the number one podcast in the world. Confession, subscribe if you haven't already. And I think, as you mentioned, we need to be prepared for that and be that hospital. Because imagine if someone was sick and the doctor said, "Well, I don't know what to do. You know, good luck." You know what I mean? We can't be that. What good is that? It's kind of like how the parable of the talents. Why am I giving you this talent if you don't even know what to do with it, if you're not going to use it? So these are the sick people that are coming, and they're engaging with us maybe in a hateful way, or maybe in a spiteful way, but we need to be prepared to combat that with love and also knowledge, so that we can back up our faith.
That kind of gives me the idea of one last question. Are y'all prepared? Are y'all ready for those people? Are you ready to combat them and help them and guide them and kind of receive the hate in a loving way?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was mentioning in the live, where I was like, I need to remember who I am as as a son of God. God will provide me with the ability to combat those answers. God will provide me with the knowledge and the wisdom to defend my faith and touch them in a way that isn't hateful, but will lead them closer towards God. And so I know it is coming, and I've already seen it.
I've
So
seen a few comments as well, but like you said, they're going to be a lot more prevalent as at the rate we're growing. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm not really worried about it. I haven't really noticed any of those comments, to be honest. But I don't know. I like taking inspiration a lot from Jesus. And I can also find a lot of relating to him. As of right now, where I'm at in this life, I'm still growing up to be the man. I'm still growing before I begin my ministry. Similar to Jesus, and Jesus didn't start his ministry till what? He was about 30? Yeah. And I think as of right now, in the current moment that I'm living, I'm just growing still. Still got a lot of growing up to do. I still battling my own personal demons, So, I think I'm just growing up and going through my trials and tribulations before I can start sharing my story and helping others in that way. But when it comes to stuff like that, negative comments, I believe all we can do, for me at least, is just lead by example, and the more that you feed into negativity, the more it's going to grow. And I'm not really worried about that as of right now. So,
and I think the more we grow too, the more I kind of relate to, well, it was your previous stance on it. It might still be like that, where it's like you can't cancel me. Someone's got to be the bad guy.
yeah.
I don't care. I am who I am. I think as we grow and move forward, I kind of get into that more of the Jesus mindset that's not as popularized. Like, yes, I'm loving, yes, I'm kind, but I'm not here to coddle you. I'm not here to baby you. I'm gonna tell you how it is, but it's gonna hurt, but it's gonna help you. You might think that I'm doing something. Oh, you're being cruel. You're being unethical. But trust the process, trust, and it's gonna be all right. Like I would say that I'm ready for the hate comments and all that. I mean, I do see them off and on, but it's like at this point, my biggest tool is just gonna be to ignore it, unless they're genuinely asking for help or genuinely curious or serious about it. Then I might engage. But if as soon as I still have some type of negative energy or feel some type of negative way, as soon as I start reading it, it's not even worth the time no more. Or like you said, we could implement the something as simple as like, you know what, I'm not gonna waste my time on it, but God bless you, or I'll pray for you. Have a good day. Just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think you have a very good point, and Derek made a good point when he was bringing it up to me before the pod. But my mindset still to this stuff is like, hey, whether you like me, dislike me, you still watch me, which makes you a fan. And yeah, the temptation is there, very there, to go and reply back and talk my ish, but there's a right and a wrong thing to do there. And Derek had a great point with saying, don't feed into it. Don't lower yourself to that standard. Just wish him nothing but the best. We'll see you guys at the top.
Remember, they hate you. They hated me first, says the Lord.
Exactly.
So, but without further ado, thank you for watching this recap episode. We appreciate every single one of y'all for tuning in. Watch the live every Friday night, 9:15 Central Time. We would love to see y'all there. And yeah, without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one very soon. Love y'all. Peace.